Recently I made a video of a Shaman Barbarian that capitalized on using the poison damage small charms, dual death webs, and items either lowering the enemy's poison resistance or increasing the poison skill damage to have 24,000 damage over the total duration that the damage would be dealt over time. And I got a comment from Balliant McLosey, whom is today's comment shoutout, suggesting to try out a cold variant of the build. So that's what we're going to be testing out today. Thank you for your suggestion of this idea, and I hope that you will enjoy the build. In today's video, I'm going to go over the build for the Winter Soldier Barbarian build. A fun build that is colder than all the brutally honest and intrusively direct questions that Bob Iger was asked during the latest Disney shareholders meeting.
Hello, Bob. I'd like to address what I view as the elephant in the room. Over the last few years, Disney has turned from a place of magic for children to an ideological company. Please turn Disney back to the apolitical, fun place that it used to be, and I bet that you'll win back both the trust of families and the stock market. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question.
I'll have it linked down in the description below for any of you guys that want to hear it for yourselves. That has to be one of the best laughs that I've had in a very long time. I'm going to go over the attributes, the skill tree, the gear for my character and my mercenary, and afterwards I'm going to show you guys some gameplay so you could see this build in action. But do keep in mind that when it comes to this build, there are different ways you can be able to gear the character depending on your needs, whether you're trying to go for maximum DPS, you're trying to do a magic find character, or a hybrid of the two. Just keep in mind when it comes to looking at the gear choices that I'm going to be choosing, that you can choose alternative gear depending on the demand that you have for your build. Now let's go ahead and get into the video. For the attributes, there's enough strength to be able to equip my gear with a few extra points that I'm going to be using to be able to hold an item that I'm going to be using for pre-buffing. With dexterity, I have enough points to be able to hit 10,000 attack rating after pre-buffing, and the rest of the points go into vitality, of which I will still have 4,500 health. With the skill trees, starting with the combat skills, I have maxed out Whirlwind as that is our skill to be able to deal damage. Moving on to the Warcry skill tree, I have maxed out Battle Orders and Shout because, unlike with the Shaman Barb where I maxed out Battle Command instead, because the build wants the Barbarian and the Mercenary to be hit to build a proc low resistance from plague, and using Shout would lessen the chances of that happening. And there's still 1 point into Battle Command to be able to increase our skills, and then I worked my way down in Battle Cry in case of going into terror zones or fighting an act boss to help reduce the time fighting them, as well as to reduce the damage that is taken from them. It isn't necessary for this build, but is 2 skill points invested to be able to have level 14 if desired. Lastly, for the Combat Mastery skill tree, Axe Mastery is maxed out, and I've initially put 1 point into increased stamina, increased speed, Iron Skin, and 1 point into natural resistance to get all but my cold res maxed out after using Battle Command. And not having cold resistance maxed out isn't going to be detrimental to this build. Here's where there's some flexibility with the remaining skill points that you have. These extra skill points are now up to you as to where you want to place them. You could put more points into Battle Cry for more reduction in taking damage, as well as the reduction in the enemy's defense. Warcry isn't necessary as the aura this build utilizes provides great crowd control. Since this isn't a teleporting character, you could put points into increased speed, or for more defense, Iron Skin is a great option. I decided to split the points up between increased speed and Iron Skin, and after all of my buffs, I'll have 7,500 defense, which is decent for the items I'm going to be using with this build. Speaking of gear, because this is more of an incredibly niche meme build than anything else, the items being used can be swapped around with other options, depending on what you're wanting to do with this build. But for a specific cold damage build, this is what ended up working best for me. The helm is a Nightwing socketed with a 5/5 cold facet for the plus to skills, negative 5% enemy cold resistance, plus 20% cold skill damage, and a good dexterity boost. The amulet is Mars for the plus to skills, small attributes boost, and the 30 all res. However, a good alternative would be High Lord's Wrath for the plus to skills, increased attack speed, deadly strike, and lightning resistance. The body armor is Ormus Robe, socketed with a 5/5 cold facet for the negative 5% to enemy cold resistance, as well as the boost to cold skill damage. The weapons are Dual Doom, Runewords, and Berserker Axes for the combined level 24 Holy Freeze Aura for great crowd control, plus the skills, increased attack speed, negative 120% cold resistance between both weapons, deadly strike, open wounds, and freezes target. The boots are rare faster runwalk boots with strength, dexterity, and dual res. You can swap them for alternatives such as Gore Riders for the crushing blow, deadly strike, and open wounds, or possibly War Travelers for the magic find. The first ring is a Ravenfrost for the cannot be frozen, attack rating, and dexterity. The belt is Snow Clash for the chance to cast Blizzard when struck to be able to stick with the cold damage theme for the build. The second ring is a rare attack rating, dual leech, and resistance ring. The gloves are crafted blood gloves for the increased attack speed, dual leech, and crushing blow. On switch, I'm going to be using Harmony for the Vigor Aura to be able to move around faster. Now with the inventory, there's the Cube, both Tomes, Annie, Torch, and keeping with the idea I did with the Shaman Barb of having the poison damage small charms, I'm going to be using cold damage small charms, and the Grand Charm is the Cold Rupture Sunder Charm. Now I do understand with the small charms, when adding the damage together, it is going to be between 375 on the low end and 725 on the high end. Unfortunately, that doesn't provide a lot of additional damage, so you can swap some of the items around to be able to help with Magic Find with this character, such as Chance Guards, War Travelers, Agides, and 7% Magic Find small charms, which would add up to around with just those items alone. However, I'll be continuing with the items shown for consistency with the aforementioned previous build guide. For the additional stats, he has 10% Life Leech, 10% Mana Leech, 65% increased attack speed from each weapon, and to top it off, negative 130% to enemy cold resistance. Remember that number after we go and check out the Mercenary's Gear to really understand the damage potential with this build. Great segue into the last part before checking out the build in action. The Mercenary's Gear is important to understanding the full damage output for this build. He's wearing an Ethereal Andariel's Visage socketed with an increased attack speed, Fire-Res Jewel, Fortitude for the body armor, and his weapon is Infinity for the Conviction aura, as this will help to lower the resistance of everything that we fight to make the damage that we do go even further. Now to quickly go over the damage potential for this build, taking into consideration a monster that's been sundered now has 95% to that resistance. Then Conviction at level 12 reduces the resistance down 17 more percent, as it works with a 1/5% penalty to sundered monsters, making the resistance now. Adding that with a negative 130% from all the gear makes the resistance now. Now for those that really want to go above and beyond, for those patient enough to really try to max the lowering of the monster's resistances, you can have dual plagues to switch for the proc to lower res when struck, and at level 12, it would lower the resistances down 11 more percent as, just like with Conviction, works at 1/5 effectiveness to the monster that's been sundered, dropping the resistance even lower to around. I won't be using Plague for this example, but for those who maybe were curious to know, that's where this build would stand if it was used. And that's for the monsters who have been sundered. Those that didn't have their cold resistance broken have theirs reduced even more from Conviction, helping you to deal more damage. Then on top of that, all the plus to cold skill damage, Valiant McLosey said it might be much stronger than the Shaman Barb. So let's go ahead and find out. Now that we've discussed the attributes, the skill trees, the gear for my character and my mercenary, let's go ahead and check out this build in action to see how well it actually plays out. This build is a lot of fun to play, and being that the Holy Freeze Aura helps to slow enemies down around you, this not only is a very powerful build, but a very safe build as well.
Death can save you from me.
There are two drawbacks to this build, and the first is that it is quite mana hungry. So having at least one row of mana potions on your belt is ideal to be able to maintain your ability to whirlwind, especially if, for example, heading to Bale through the Whirlstone Chamber and running into souls or wraiths that could drain your mana very quickly. But do remember that you can't use any potions while you're actively whirlwinding. The second drawback is that you will end up needing to repair your gear within 10 or so runs. And in testing out this build, I did run Chaos to be able to do full clearing, and I ended up needing to repair the axes after 8 or so runs before they would end up breaking. If you have dedicated Goldfind characters, especially for example, a Goldfind Barbarian for Travical like I've had, link in the description below if you want to check out the build, you can get millions of gold within 1 or 2 runs without much issue. That, or have an abundance of Ort Runes to be able to repair them in the queue. It is a bit of an inconvenience, but aside from that, this is a build that I feel is worth giving a go and seeing just how much fun it is to play.
I am overburdened.
I've enjoyed my time playing this build and seeing just how strong it can be, and I'm sure that there's still ways to be able to tweak the setup and become even more powerful. However, if you're curious to try another version of this type of build, make sure to go check out the poison version, the Shaman Barb, of which surprised me in how effective death webs actually are as melee weapons. Video link down in the description below. And that's going to wrap it up for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and were able to see if this build would be something that you would be interested in going into the future, and if anything, at least just enjoyed the video. If you like this kind of content and want to see more, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification to be notified whenever a new video comes out.
Come on. Come on. Come on, then. There you are. There you are.
And if you like this video, please let me know by leaving a like. It really is appreciated to be able to help my channel to grow. And if you want to see more of my Diablo 2 Resurrected content, make sure to click the card in the corner up above to check out my Diablo 2 Resurrected playlist. There's a lot of videos already in it, with a lot more coming in the very near future. Other than that, I hope you guys are staying safe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.